Lynda Kinkade at the CNN Centre. Welcome to Newstream, where news and technology meet. No sign of a ceasefire in this part of Ukraine as shelling continues near the eastern town of Debaltseve. Egypt attacks ISIS in Libya, launching airstrikes against the militant group. And South Korean prosecutors indict an LG executive for allegedly vandalising a Samsung washing machine. A ceasefire agreement in eastern Ukraine has done little to stop the fighting in the key town of Debaltseve. Take a look. You're looking at a pipeline exploding after it was hit by shelling. Heavy fighting has continued between Ukrainian forces and pro-Russian separatists there, despite a ceasefire deal that went into effect on Sunday. Now, for the latest on the ground, let's go to CNN senior international correspondent Nick Paton Walsh, who joins us from Donetsk. And Nick, Ukraine's military said during a press conference earlier today that 5 soldiers had been killed and 14 wounded in just the past 24 hours. Clearly, this shaky ceasefire is already struggling.
Well, it's difficult really to talk about it now like a ceasefire, frankly. I mean, if you look at the accepted rhetoric around this peace deal, those who support it try and suggest that it's a ceasefire except for Debaltseve. Now, the Ukrainian military, as you say, had many losses. I've just spoken to the Deputy Defence Minister of the self-declared Donetsk People's Republic, Eduard Basurin, in short, the separatists, and they claim to have taken 80% now of Debaltseve. Now, of course, that's their claim. The Ukrainian military do claim similar success, or at least that they're holding parts that they previously had. But the Defence Minister Deputy went on to say that he saw with his own eyes that 60 prisoners of war had been taken from the Ukrainian forces. So a very complex picture inside the Debaltseve, hard to work out quite what is really going on in there. It's clear there is intense fighting, no doubt about that. The rebels and the Ukrainians both accepting there's been violence around the railway station. And we're hearing figures from pro-separatist media of perhaps hundreds of Ukrainians who've allegedly surrendered. It's hard to verify that as well. But we ourselves heard the intensity of the shelling around Debaltseve just yesterday when we were in a nearby village. The point really is, I think, here that this is a sign of the growing separatist confidence that they militarily can take Debaltseve. They clearly have the road to the north of it, the one access road in and out, cut off. That does effectively encircle it. The question is, does this mark by itself an end to the ceasefire? Is this the beginning of a new chapter of escalated violence as the separatists move on to take yet more territory? Or is it, as their rhetoric suggests, simply them cleaning up what they now consider an internal matter through their slightly distorted interpretation of the Minsk agreement on what's now their internal territory under those Minsk lines as they were defined? Messy, but certainly not a ceasefire. Lynda?
And Nick, under this so-called agreement, the withdrawal of heavy weapons is expected to happen today, or is meant to happen today. What are the expectations on the ground? Will it happen?
Well, I think the simplest answer is no, really. I mean, the rhetoric now is about who's fighting who, where, and who's winning, not about, well, hang on a minute, in a couple of hours, let's just pull our heavy weapons back. The fear is, as we saw yesterday ourselves, there's a lot of heavy weaponry still on the move towards the front. It's obvious from what we can hear in many different places the separatists are still firing their heavy weapons. They accept that. They're doing that to defend their positions, they say, in response to Ukrainian fire. Well, the Ukrainians say they're responding to separatist fire. We saw ourselves Ukrainian heavy weapons driving towards the front yesterday, and that was roughly when it should have been going the other way. So the issue was there needed to be a sort of period of quiet during the ceasefire to enable that second stage of the heavy weapons withdrawal to begin. There wasn't even the quiet, so we haven't seen the withdrawal. And then, of course, it's highly unlikely we'll even get to the next bit, which is the political solution and the buffer zone between two sides. The question now really is this fight for Debaltseve, who's winning, and does the victor then move on to try and achieve something else militarily, or does that then effectively set the lines for the Minsk truce that many wanted? I say truce, but frankly, it doesn't look like that now, and it didn't really since it began. Lynda?
It does not look very optimistic at all. Nick Paton Walsh, thank you very much for that update.